Hello and welcome to another episode of Junior Television, the Fan Saga. This is the second to last member in our series of fan videos. The last one is going to be the Galaxy, which I have still neglected to make a video about. Anyways, let's get back to this. This is my 1940s-ish desk fan. Unfortunately, I can't nail down the year. I can't even nail down the brand. But, yeah, here it is. I picked this up for $5 from a flea market, which is where I get just about all my fans, because dirt cheap and they're usually working pretty well. This was a pretty good example of a rough fan. As you can see, the paint is rubbish. I believe, based on the color and the condition, it seems to be the original paint. The blade and the paint and the body were painted the same color. However, the cage is still chrome or some kind of shiny metal. This motor is the tiniest little motor I've seen on a fan in a little while. It's just this little cylinder here, and it works pretty well. And here's the oscillation mechanism, which you might notice there's no, little pegs that sticks up so you can turn it on and off. This is a fan where the only way to disable the oscillation is you have to take this screw on the side out, and out of that you will pull out a little gear. This is that little gear. This is really the only way they could figure out how to disable oscillation, is you have to remove this screw. It comes right out, and then you pull this out, and that's how you disable it. Yeah, here's the little screw. I keep it out because personally I don't have my fans oscillate usually. I'd only have one that I have oscillate, and I never use it, so I just keep this out of the fan. I do keep it in a little bag usually, but here it is in its glory. It's a little, very simple. The screw threads right through this, and it engages the mechanism inside of here. And, cameras should be focusing, but they're not. Anyways, you might notice this comedically short cable, and that is not factory. It did have a normal length cable. However, recoring or recabling is something I have not gotten to yet, because I'm lazy. And you might notice what's left of the cable is still in absolutely shoddy condition. You should never use this, but I still use it anyways. I really wish that would focus. You can see it's all covered in oil, and it's just nasty overall, but it works pretty well. I spent forever and ever balancing this stupid blade, because one of them was bent, and it took forever to figure out what angle they should go at, and I'm not a professional. I don't have a special machine. I didn't balance the blade because the weights were fine. There is no weights on here, and it's one of the blades is still bent. I just saw that. Anyways, I gotta fix that later, but for now, it's good enough. I don't use this very often because it's very loud. It's not loud in an abnormal way, it's just the blade is very small, and this is a high RPM fan, so it creates a draft by having a small blade but at a very fast speed. There's only one speed. It's on and off. There's no multi-speed selection here. There's too old. On, off. I will demonstrate it working a little later, but for now, let me tell you just briefly about the plans for this fan. Of course, it's the basics, right? I gotta hunt down this color of paint. No, I don't have this color paint. It's actually a semi-similar color to that of my Kenmore box fan. You might have seen that video. Except this one is not hammered. The box fan is. And down here, same color. It's all the same color except for the chrome. I gotta take some emery cloth or something and go over that. Yeah, this blade might actually be a different color. I'm colorblind, so let me know if you think that the blade is a different color. Looking through the camera, it looks pretty definite and obvious, but in real life, it doesn't look so much. Anyway, so yeah, this is a cast iron base, of course. being ludicrously heavy. And that's what the color should be of this fan. Ooh, I didn't notice that sticker before. That's a sticker. I can't read it right now, but I'll tell you what it says in a little bit. Yeah. There is no brand on here. I'm sure originally there was a cap that went over this hole here to hide this ugly framework and, you know, have a little circle with a badge over it like my Polar Cub. And, unfortunately, when I got it, that was long gone. You know. Anyways, enough chat, because let's get to the interesting part of the fan. Real quick, I'll just jump on this sticker. All I can see is that seems like it says it made by the A.C. Gilbert. It actually just says Gilbe, but I'll bet it said Gilbert. And then it says New Haven, Connecticut, USA. 110 to 120 volts, 60 cycles. Cat number A25. There's a W, which I assume stood for wattage. You can't see any of this because the camera stinks. U.S. patent number 1,000,000 or 1,930 something or 3 something. Tested by not applicable. Code not applicable. Unfortunately, I'll bet this sticker was actually intact when I got it, but I didn't know it existed, and so I, set on various things. You can also see that all of the rubber feet have disappeared. I have to put new ones on. Anyways, now for the interesting part, turning it on. Now, before you say anything and get all scared about my safety or the fan's safety, don't worry, this isn't a protected environment. At Junior Bear Laboratories, we always take care of our products and items which we have, and this is no exception. We have our fused extension cord going all the way to our circuit breaker with a special fuse attachment which we have devised and attached, and our little cord up there is in fact insulated with the electrical tape and other necessary items to make sure that there is no shorting whatsoever. No damage will be incurred onto this fan, and I guarantee that personally. So, let's get ourselves a good old-fashioned startup. That blade is bent quite badly. I see that now. I hope you can hear this because I don't know how well you can hear the fan. It's reasonably loud, so I imagine you hear at least some of it. It is vibrating, which is not to be unexpected. I already knew it vibrated. Once again, I am in fact careful. Don't fret. I will not get my hands in the blade. I have experience with this. It doesn't look like it's vibrating so much on the camera, but trust me, in real life it's quite blurry, the cage. And there it is. See, that's how you can see if the blades are bent. If it's not perfectly straight, that means it's bent. And then, now that I know it's bent again, I have to hunt down that blade that is bent, straighten it out again, and hope it deletes my vibration problem. Another problem with this is that it's actually quite difficult for someone like me to use because I primarily use my fans towards the evening, and if there's one thing that annoys me more than anything, it's a noisy fan. Not noisy as in it hums loud or the blade makes a noise. It's vibration noise. I hate it. It drives me up a wall, and not having rubber feet and having an imbalanced blade means that it is not very quiet. You might have heard it rattling during that, operation time. And so, yeah, that's something I absolutely must fix before I continue doing anything else with this fan. Which, shouldn't just look pretty, it should also function just as well. I realize my hand has now been quite close to the lens. I hope that wasn't destroying your viewer experience. There are 2 oiling ports, or 1.5, I'd say. There's one on the front, just like every old school fan. You got oil, you can see it right there just above the spindle. And all that leads to is a piece of cotton that surrounds the bushing, which, I don't know, like, Anyways, then you have this port. It's not labeled for oil, but it is in fact an oil port. It goes straight down into the oscillation mechanism for when you need to oil that. Don't put too much oil in there. If you've got one of these, don't put too much. Just a little bit. A little bit goes a long, long way. Because if you put too much in there, it's going to go through here, down here, and out the bottom, because there's no seals in here. It just drains right out through that. Especially when it's oscillating. That's how my desk is all covered in oil, which is very irritating. You can also see the whole back of the fan's oil. You're not supposed to put very much oil in these, but somebody put a lot of oil in there before me, and when I took this motor apart, it was, not good, not happy. One thing I absolutely love about this fan, and I'm going to unplug this now because that's kind of an extreme angle. Alright, anyways, one of the things I enjoy about this fan is this toggle switch. It's absolutely just very enjoyable to use. It seems to be the original. I have no reason to believe it's been replaced. Well, very little reason. I mean, you know, it's possible. Anyway, I really enjoy it. It really does seem to fit the era of this fan, and it just makes a very satisfying click that I enjoy. Why I unplugged it back then is because you can already see how bad this cable is. If my camera would focus, please. Pretty please. The cherry on top, maybe not. I guess it's not going to focus. So, you might hopefully be able to see that. It's quite crackly. It's almost like a piece of charcoal sticking out of the bottom of the fan, and even with the proper insulation techniques on the inside, I still don't want this to just all of a sudden disintegrate and short against each other. So that's why when it was at this extreme angle, I got it. I didn't want to go any further. I do have a new cord for it. I just gotta prep it and get it soldered on there. Yeah. You may have seen in my Inside a 1940's motor, Junior Bear short, I showed the inside of this motor because the field windings, which are the copper windings which produce the magnetic field to turn the armature, were kind of just hanging out wherever they felt like and interfering with our armature. When I put that back together, I did not realize that the negative, or well, this isn't polarized, but I call it the negative, cable off of this, connection here. It goes straight through right to the field winding, and it was interfering with the bottom of the armature as well, so I had to move it down a little bit so that it wouldn't do that. So I had to take the whole thing apart again, and I could have recorded it, but I forgot. Anyways, one of the biggest problems I experienced with this motor, being that it's 1940s era, seemingly, could be even 30s, but I don't know for sure. 1940s, I'll just say 40 for convenience. One of the biggest problems I experienced with this motor is that it gets hot. And you might think to yourself, of course it gets hot, it's old. All old fans seem to get hot. Well, this gets really hot. I mean very, very hot. It gets over 120. It will actually burn your hand if you touch it. That is a big problem. That is weird. I don't understand why exactly. It should not get that hot. Now, I did clean the armature, made sure there was no rust or anything interfering on it. There was rust in the video, but I did clean it off afterward with some very, very, very fine grit sandpaper. And, as well as, I reduced as much friction as possible when I got it. This is about how far the blade would turn freely. About that much, and then, you'd have to turn it again. It didn't just spin on and on and on like that, so I had to oil it up, adjust the bushings to reduce that friction. I also reduced the amount of end play it has. It's under 1/8 of an inch now. Whereas when I got it, it was nearly, if not a 1/4 of an inch, which is very extreme, the worst I've ever seen in my life. I've done a lot of work to this, and it does work pretty well. I just need to straighten the blade out, record it, of course, and I need to figure out the heating problem. There is no dust inside of here because I took it all apart and put it back together, so the blade should be pulling air through the motor. Doesn't seem to be anything blocking the holes. Another problem with this fan experiences, which is something I am unfortunately unable to fix, is the oscillation mech is kind of loose here. You can see it wibble wobbles on the back of the motor, and unfortunately this is riveted on to the casing. These aren't the rivets, it just has its own rivets here. There's 4 of them. They don't even penetrate through, they're built onto this casting, and I cannot replace those at all without replacing the whole oscillation mech, which is impossible to do because they don't make them anymore. It is simply not feasible to repair this oscillation mech, which, luckily, thank goodness for me, is not where the bushing lives. The bushing actually lives just before it, so it's not causing the armature to be all loosey-goosey like that, but it still is unfortunate, but there's nothing I can do, unfortunately. It doesn't matter too much because all it does is affect oscillation, which is one of the other reasons I don't use oscillation, is because the oscillation on this doesn't work very well. The fan gets stuck very often because this will lift up. These will kind of get all stuck because it's all loose. I mean, that's how loose it is. Notice the blade isn't moving at all. This is all... Whoops, that's a bit too much movement, but look. That's extreme. Sorry for the interruption, folks. Anyway, yeah. This is this. This is the fan, and thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. This is the second to last fan video, so if you're a really big fan of the fan series, then unfortunately I can no longer provide very many fan videos. I didn't start off, if you've looked through my history, as a fan person, but it just kind of happened. And I'm not gonna fill my whole house up with a bunch of fans. I only ever needed a couple. I already have, well, if you look on my fan playlist, you'll see every single fan I own that's worthy of video recording. I own like a couple modern ones, but it's not even worth recording. They're just, you go to Walmart, you can look at the very same fan I own. You know, it's pointless. Anyways, you can see all the fans I own in the fan club playlist I made, where all of my fan videos reside. And if you look in the description, you'll see all the ones I own, and that's it. I'm not going to be able to buy any more. If I ever do any repairs, of course, I'll video it, but this is just about the end of the fan video saga. There's going to be one more video on the Galaxy, which is right over here, and that's going to be it. So, if you're looking for fan content, that might not be something you should subscribe to this channel for, because there's not going to be much more in the future. It's going to be mostly cars and technology, which is what I do best. Thank you so much for watching, and have an excellent day. If you liked the video, again, please like it. If you want to see more content semi-similar to this, then subscribe. If you did not like this video, please dislike the video and explain why in the comments, or tell me how I could improve, please. Thank you again, and goodbye.